Hello, and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Martin O'Neill. At their meeting on December the 13th, the Bloomington City Council unanimously rejected the sale of the city's police station on 3rd Street. Deputy Mayor Larry Allen presented a summary of the resolution.
This does authorize the sale of real property that we mentioned. The sale is made pursuant to Indiana Code 36111. Under that particular provision of Indiana Code, it is required to have City Council approval before any real property in this manner can be sold. We have obtained, just to jump to the end, just so right up top we know what we're talking about, we received 3 bids during the sale period, and the city believes that it has received a best and highest offer from GMS Pavilion Properties for $4.4 million. And if approved, this would enable the administration to negotiate the closing with the buyer, but to be clear, the closing would occur in 2024, so it would have to be conducted by the next administration. What this would do simply is to authorize that administration to pursue the closing of this property.
Outgoing Mayor John Hamilton spoke in support of the sale.
We're very pleased that we got bids for Showers West that are right in line with the estimates, and all of these processes, including the closing costs for the transaction at issue here, are going to be negotiated. What the administration is asking council tonight is to allow this administration and the next administration to negotiate those final details. Of course, any administration is going to have moving parts in any large project like this, but the numbers are good when we look at a project like this, and I think the decision for this council is, do we let this administration and the next administration negotiate to conclusion the purchase, the sale of the headquarters to facilitate the full project movement of the 4 projects, or if this council decides not to allow that to go forward, then the result will be this administration and the next administration will move forward with the bond proceeds and any other proceeds that we have to do the 2 highest priority projects. And the next administration and the next council will wrestle with, okay, what do we do about the other 2 projects? So we're happy to dig into those details, but the overall fiscal picture is very good with the sources that we've identified, and of course there'll be negotiations to be done.
During public comment, Mayor-elect Carrie Thompson urged the council to delay the sale of the building.
I've listened tonight to the presentation and questions, and it's clear to me that there are many outstanding issues with this property that we still have yet to determine. If this property attracted 3 qualified bids in such a short period of time, it can again attract qualified bids in the future should we choose to sell. Such a delay allows us time to ensure we are financially and ethically headed in a direction to protect our city's best interest, and in fact would serve to reduce the rent eventually paid for a leaseback, a rate that, if viewed as interest on the total sale price, would be in excess of 9%. Certainly the city can bond for a lower interest rate than that. Declining these offers does not preclude us from selling this property in the future, but it does allow the city time to complete due diligence on the sale, the costs of Showers West, and also time to discuss with the Buskirk and Hill families regarding the possibility of what types of future uses would be within the gift's intent. It does not seem prudent to rush into a deal tonight, one that may not close until my administration is in place, but one which would absolutely be bound by. Thank you for your careful consideration of the questions which remain outstanding.
Further complicating the process is a deed restriction on the land, which requires property to be a public park. Local resident Nathaniel Usher Hill IV spoke out against the proposal, saying his family members were the original signers of the deed.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am Nat Hill IV. You will hear my brother Philip Hill shortly. Our grandfather Nat U. Hill II and his brother Philip Buskirk Hill were original signers of the deed. My brother and I are here today as heirs. I'm the better looking one, to convince you that you should not approve this flawed sale. I need to start with a genuine apology. I'm genuinely sorry we haven't paid more attention to what has taken place at City Hall and here at the Bloomington City Council. I feel bad that so much time and energy has been spent getting everybody to this point. I also want to make it clear that we are not mad at Mayor Hamilton, the City Council, or anybody else. Much has been made of the cordial discussion my brother and I did indeed have with the mayor. That's how discussions should be. I told Mayor Hamilton at our cordial meeting, and I repeat, it was a cordial meeting, that this sale would obviously result in another, quote, 9-story student housing building with an empty retail first floor, and I forgot to add with free underwater parking. The mayor assured us that wouldn't happen. Well, at the Public Works Board meeting Friday, which I watched, bid number 3 was for a 475-bedroom development on 1.3 acres. I think that violates the spirit of the intent. The mayor is firmly convinced this sale is a good and proper thing. We made it clear to the mayor that we simply disagree regarding the legality and fairness in selling 31% of the land initially described in the deed as being used exclusively for a free public park for the use of the citizens of Bloomington, Indiana, in order to build another high-rise student building downtown. Wait a minute, that wasn't in the original deed, was it? Quickly switching gears, Bloomington is a town of never-ending generosity. There have been countless donations given over the years to this city. My brother and I have been very happy with the continuing faithfulness of the city in stewarding past donations. As far as we know up until now, the city has batted 100% in honoring the wishes of many donors. The proposed sale of the Waldron Hill and Buskirk Park property is way out of character for the city of Bloomington. So in winding down this short speech, who came up with the 3-minute limit anyway, I want to repeat, we're not mad at anybody. But I also repeat, we don't believe the sale of the park is legal, is in any way keeping in the spirit in which the transaction was put together, and certainly not an advisable thing to do to promote future giving. We're simply asking you to do the right thing and vote against this resolution. I think I speak for all the heirs and their ancestors who originally deeded the park to the city when I say, we've all had good Christian raisins, we got 8th grade educations, ain't no reason for y'all to be treating us this way. Thank you.
The council voted 0-9, rejecting the sale of the police building. This was the last City Council meeting of the year. At the Monroe County Public Library Board of Trustees meeting on December 13th, Library Director Greer Carson gave his monthly report.
Highlights from November, we saw another strong month for collection use, particularly in digital collection use. We are seeing between 40 and 100 daily searches of the Herald Times digital archives in just the first full month of its use. We're working closely with our friends at the Monroe County History Center to share our respective digitization plans and goals so that we not only coordinate references and access to what patrons need in the way of historical content, but also make sure that we avoid potential duplication of services. There's a really cool story in the director's report about a tween craft club, which I think shows how some of our staff-facilitated tween group activities help foster a sense of social responsibility and peer support on the part of our maturing tween patrons, and it demonstrates the great work that our children's staff do. 2 of our librarians attended the Chamber of Commerce's Success School career event for MCCSE middle school students to share information about librarianship and the various positions and career paths available not only in libraries around the country, but also right here at MCPL. And our November Teen Services Survey garnered 94 respondents, which is a great response rate among teen patrons. And this feedback is going to help us with program and service decisions beginning next year. And finally, not in the report, we enjoyed the return of the MCPL staff holiday party last Friday at the Wonder Lab. This is the first time we've had the event since December 2019, because something got in the way after that. So it was great to get everybody back together for that event.
Next, the board voted to approve the 2024-2026 strategic plan. Carson gave some background on the plan.
Last month, we reviewed a draft version of this plan. This is for the years 2024 to 2026. Having completed the department action items list and the internal staff survey specific to goal number 5, we now have the final draft plan for your consideration. This draft has the additional requisite pieces not included in the November draft plan, such as a summary of MCPL services, accomplishments, awards, and improvements since the last strategic plan was adopted at the end of 2020. And this, by the way, is a truncated list. The complete list will be shared with all staff in January, and it is quite extensive, we're proud to say. It includes a financial stewardship statement, which is required by the state library, along with life cycle and replacement schedules for facilities and technology, also required by the state library. It includes an introductory letter to the community about who we are and what we do. And it has a list of strategies and action items specific to each of the 5 stated goals, and this is what we walked through last month. So these strategies and action items are really the centerpiece to the strategic plan. The goals have been developed in response to the community and staff feedback, as we've said, on what MCPL should focus on over the next 3 years. Some action items are pretty specific. So, for example, under goal number 1, we will adopt and implement a new discovery interface for our public catalog. This is already underway. Under goal number 3, we will update our behavior policy to better address evolving patron behavior issues. We know that's a key piece in dealing with behavior issues, particularly at the downtown library. But other action items are more general and leave necessary room to determine how best to meet a given strategic goal. So, for example, under goal number 2, we will expand program offerings for emerging adults ages 18 to 32. But we don't yet know what that expansion is going to entail and what specific programs we're going to be offering and when we're going to be offering them. So those are examples of more flexible action items.
The board unanimously approved the adoption of the 2024-2026 strategic plan. At the Monroe County Commissioners meeting on December 13th, Health Department Director Lori Kelly gave an update on COVID-19 influenza and salmonella presence in the county.
Statewide, COVID cases have seen increases. Influenza is also noted as being moderate in the state of Indiana right now. We do have updated COVID vaccines and still flu shots available through the public health clinic. And recently we received notification there is a current nationwide salmonella outbreak of Mullichita and Ruby brand cantaloupes. So the CDC is recommending to not eat, serve, use, sell, or distribute any of these brands of cantaloupes.
Later, the commissioners approved an agreement with Burgess and Naipaul for a metropolitan transportation plan. Commissioner Penny Githens noticed that the county would not be responsible to pay the full $100,000 bill. Highway Director Lisa Ridge said she was correct and elaborated on how the cost would be divided.
I believe that Ms. Ridge also gave us information via email that this would be a federal match, and so the cost to us is not $100,000.
That is correct. It would be an 80-20 split for the county and the city portion.
Senior Transportation Planner Patrick Martin explained why the Metropolitan Transportation Plan is necessary.
All of the urbanized areas are required to have a metropolitan transportation plan, and it must have at least a 20-year forecast. And the last metropolitan transportation plan was prepared by the staff ourselves. We completed that in October of 2020. Therefore, it's time that we do the update. And again, this is a federal requirement. And the Metropolitan Transportation Plan serves as the foundation for all of your transportation improvement projects. And it also serves as the eligibility for all your federal aid projects.
Commissioner Julie Thomas explained what the transportation plan would cover. Martin added that the plan would also look on the outskirts of the city as well.
Just for the public's edification, what this company is going to do is take into account all of the existing plans, which would include county plans, city plans for roadways, and the Bloomington Transit's recent comp plans, all the comp plans basically, but then just looking scaling wise, just looking at that area that's part of the Metropolitan Planning Organization boundary, right?
It would focus on the urbanized area boundary, which has been determined by the Census Bureau. And then it would also look at potential areas of growth within the next 20 to 25 years. In other words, if the urbanized area were to expand, and there are only certain directions it can expand given karst topography, so it would also examine those areas too.
The commissioners approved the agreement unanimously. The Monroe County Council met on December 12th. Attorney Jeff Cockrell presented a request for approval of a tax abatement for Enhanced Semiconductors, Inc.
I am here for an item that has been through the Economic Development Commission and the county commissioners. It is a request for a tax abatement that's a little bit different than our typical tax abatement in that they're requesting a 10-year, 100% abatement on personal property that they're intending to do. I guess I have 3 different topics that I would like to address to, well, really 4, because I'll talk a little procedure as well. But to kind of why we were excited and why those groups came to the conclusions that they did. All right, the process is a little bit different this time for one very important reason. One is this is the former GE building that Cook Group had gotten a tax abatement and had an economic revitalization area declared for it for 15 years. I think this is a reflection on the importance of this building in utilizing it for the workforce and to grow the workforce in our community as well. And it's one of the blessings of this project is that it is taking a former site that we had a plan to redevelop in 2018. COVID hit, and that led to a lot of wrenches in that plan. But the Cook Group did enough on that building to make it so that it is now, that they're now marketing it to a different group, and they've had the ability to be flexible enough to be able to open up this opportunity for the community.
President of Enhanced Semiconductors, Bob Patty, spoke to the council about the business.
We have more than 20 years experience in building these kinds of devices. This is notionally the next generation of semiconductors. It is a way of building the chips that we use in all of our wonderful electronics today, but it's much less expensive to build. I will also state that it's more environmentally friendly in terms of what we do than the chip production itself.
Local journalist Dave Askins asked how much the tax abatement would amount to. Cockrell said they would have paid $8.8 million in taxes over the 10-year period.
Equivalent over the 10 years, it's a little over $8.8 million in foregone taxes that they would have paid if they weren't for this abatement. Again, this is a 10-year abatement with 100% of the taxes abated each year for personal property. We don't have a real good estimate on what the real property investment's going to be in. You know, they discussed having to put some investment into the property. That is not part of this abatement, and so clearly that is going to be part of the normal taxation schedule. But I don't have a reasonable estimate for that, but it'll be not 150 million significant, but significant nonetheless.
Councilmember Jeff McKim asked where the tax revenue would go if they didn't approve the abatement. Cockrell responded.
Given that this is in a TIF district, where and the personal property is being captured by the TIF, if the abatement were not to be given, but the investment still continued, where would the tax revenue go?
It would be in the Curry Profile TIF allocation area, which would go into the Curry Profile TIF, which is essentially the 2 lots that were on the screen earlier tonight, the GE plant plus the parking lot next door. So that is the allocation area.
Councilmember Marty Hawk asked how much water the plant would need. Patty responded.
I did want to mention, because somebody sent me a question and I don't have the answer, and you don't have to answer it now, but they're just wondering how much water it's going to take, and will that change the water use in that area? So I just wanted them to know I asked the question.
Feel free.
I apologize, I didn't get it.
That's okay.
Yes, we use a fair amount of water. It takes about 250 gallons of water to process a wafer, and we intend to ramp to about 5,000 wafers per month. So I don't have the math off the top of my head, but it's, if you take 250 times 5,000, that's the monthly water consumption. We do about a 50% recycle. It actually takes about 500 gallons, but we do reprocess the water that we can.
The Council voted unanimously to approve the tax abatement for enhanced semiconductors. The Monroe County Community School Corporation Board of Trustees met on December 12th. During public comment, a Monroe County bus driver, Teresa Liddy, spoke to the board about issues drivers are having with Thomas-built buses, their electric bus supplier.
I am reading this for some bus drivers. We're a concerned group of MCCSC bus drivers. Our corporation has spent millions on Thomas electric buses that are breaking down constantly. We believe there are other companies with more proven and dependable electric buses, but we seem to be completely ignoring them. The company that we are buying them from has been accusing us and our mechanics of sabotage. They say we don't want to go electric. This is 100% false, and we're sick and tired of being blamed whenever these flawed buses break down. The reality is that we truly enjoy driving electric buses. They're smooth and quiet with no diesel fumes, and the kids seem to like them even more than we do. It's important to note that we continue to happily drive them despite the breakdowns, the accusations, and the frustrating new service agreement we've recently entered into with the company in question. We're dedicated and honest professionals, and these false accusations must stop. Safety is a huge priority for us, and unfortunately, several Thomas electric buses have broken down with students on board. During some of these events, the parking brake wouldn't set, which would be catastrophic. One driver had to sit with her foot constantly on the brake on a hill in the dark with students on board for over 20 minutes and until help arrived. This too is unacceptable, and the administration should explain why we continue to purchase these same malfunctioning buses from this same single company year after year. Have we ever even asked for competing bids from Bluebird, Lion Electric, or IC buses? We currently need to replace several of our older special needs buses, but Thomas doesn't yet offer an electric version of this style bus. Will we finally try a different company's electric buses so that our special needs students don't get left behind? Special needs students thrive in calmer environments, and electric buses definitely provide a quieter atmosphere. Let us repeat that we're absolutely on board with electric buses. They are clearly the future, but something is wrong here, and this board has to discover what's going on. Why are our electric buses constantly breaking down, and why aren't other corporations that are currently going electric experiencing these same widespread issues? Could it simply be they bought Bluebird, Lion, and International buses instead of Thomas? Might it be related to the recent bankruptcy of Proterra, the maker of Thomas electric batteries and drivetrains? And just who exactly that keeps ordering these same old Thomas buses? Each of these, thank you.
Next, the board voted on 4 separate policies. Board President April Hennessy noted that Policy 9131 is mandated by Indiana Code and must be adopted before January.
I do just want to make a note that Policy 9131, challenges to library books, media, other supplemental materials, textbooks, and other instructional aids, is one that is required by the state and must be in effect by January 1st, just so that it's very clear that this is something that we are required to put on the books and not something that we desire to put on the books. From my perspective anyway, but I don't want to speak for the board.
The board approved the policy unanimously. And that's all for CATSweek. Thanks for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Martin O'Neill.